What's up, Dream Builder? Are you someone who's interested in creating a life by your design through all things real estate? Well, I can assure you, you are in the right place. Join me, your host, Casanova Brooks. I'm an award-winning real estate agent and investor as we uncover the top tips, strategies, and the mindset of the top real estate entrepreneurs across the world. Stay locked in because we're about to go on a journey that will change your life. What's up, Dream Nation? We are back again, and today's guest, we have someone who is very special in the real estate world. We have Mr. Mark Podolsky on. Mark, you want to go ahead and say what's up to Dream Nation?
Casanova Brooks, thank you so much for having me. Dream Nation, I am really excited to walk everybody through how to start creating passive income in real estate without renters, rehabs, renovations, or rodents.
Man, that's something great. And the reason why I wanted to bring you on is because, of course, over the last 3 years, we've really had a heightened market and people have been looking to invest. Obviously, there's been a lot of leveraging going on because of the fact that interest rates have just been really low. But one of the last things that people start to think about in investing is land. And that's where you've been a specialist at. You've been doing this since 2001. Am I correct?
Correct.
Got it. And now go ahead.
No, yeah, I've been I've done this over 6,000 times now.
Wow. And so talk to me about, where did you get your start in real estate? Why land for one? And then also, why you even chose real estate? Because I'm assuming you could have did a lot of different things when you started to invest. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, let's rewind the tape and we'll go back to 2000. And I was a miserable, micromanaged, 45-minute commute to work and back investment banker. And I specialized in mergers and acquisitions with private equity groups. And it got so bad for me that I wouldn't get the Sunday blues anticipating Monday coming around. I'd get the Friday blues anticipating the weekend going by really fast and having to be back at work on Monday. So my firm hires this guy. He's telling me that as a side hustle, he's buying up raw land, pennies on the dollar. He's flipping them online, and he's making a 300% return on his investment. So I'm looking at companies all day long, and a great company has 15% EBITDA margins or free cash flow. Average company is 10%. And I'm looking at companies all day long, less than 10%. So I don't believe him. So I've got $3,000 saved up for car repairs. I do exactly what he tells me to do. I go to New Mexico with him. I buy up 10 half-acre parcels, an average price of $300 each. I sell them online, and they all sell for an average price of $1,200 each. It worked. So I took all that money and went to another auction. I live in Arizona, and there's Arizona against 2000. There's no one in the room. I'm buying up lots and acreage for nothing. I sell all that property over the next 6 months, and I made over $90,000 cash. So I go to my wife. I'm like, honey, I'm going to quit my job and become a full-time land investor. And she says, absolutely not. She's pregnant. I'm like, okay. So I worked land investing part-time, and it took about 18 months for the land investing income to exceed the investment banking income. And then I quit, and I've been doing it full-time ever since.
Wow. So let's go back. And first off, why did your wife feel like it was too much of a risk? Because if you're bringing in $90,000 cash, why was she not so excited as well? What was the downside that she saw?
Well, it was an entrepreneurial thing, right? So there's no net. When you've been working a job, you feel, I mean, between you and me, there's really not security, but you feel like you've got security. And, it was just fear. It was just all fear-based. So she needed more sort of consistent data that this thing wasn't a lark. Like, yeah, you could do it for a little bit. You could do it maybe on this deal, but can you do it consistently?
Got it.
And that made sense to me.
Yeah, no, it definitely does.
And can you bring in more money than $90,000 a year?
Right. And so I think, and the reason why I wanted to bring that up, because I think a lot of people right now, when they first decide they're going to get into real estate, it's not both hands all on the wheel. It's always that other party that maybe knows nothing about it because they're not in the day-to-day. So they're maybe seeing the cash flow, they're seeing the appreciation on a couple properties, but they're not in the grind on the day-to-day. So they have that fear. And I think that a lot of people right now are looking. So I think that that's why it's important that I wanted to talk about that. Now, for you, did you continue to get mentorship from that guy, or like, how did you really start to hone your skills?
Well, he really wasn't a mentor. We were kind of doing it. He knew a little more than me. So we just started doing it, basically in parallel ways. And we'd go to auctions and.
Were you investing together, or he had his own?
No, he had his own thing. I had my own thing, and that was it. And so unfortunately, I just kind of figured it out as I went. And what I discovered was, at the beginning, my big mistake was I was just flipping. So, cash is great, but now I got a new problem. I got to redeploy the cash.
Right.
So, if you can't, I'll walk you through the model that I developed that I think is really the best way to do this.
Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
Okay. So, Casanova, where do you live?
I'm in Omaha.
You're in Omaha. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's pretend that you own 20 acres of raw land in Texas, and you owe $200 in back taxes on that 20 acres. Okay. So you're advertising two things to me. Number one, you have no emotional attachment to that raw land. You live in Omaha, properties in Texas. And number two, you're distressed financially in some weird way because you haven't paid your taxes. And we don't pay for things, we don't value them in the same way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the list from the county treasurer. I see, oh, there's Casanova Brooks. He owes $200 in back taxes. He lives in Nebraska. And he owns this 20-acre parcel in Texas. And then what I'll do is I'll take the lowest comp on that 20 acres. And all I'm going to do is divide by 4. And that's going to get me what Warren Buffett would call a 300% margin of safety. So I'm actually going to send you an actual offer for your raw land. So let's say the lowest comp is 10 grand. I'm going to send you an offer of $2,500.
Right.
Now you accept it because for you, $2,500 is better than nothing because this whole time the county treasurer keeps sending you notices every single month. Casanova, if you don't pay your property taxes, you're going to lose this property to a tax lien or tax deed investor. Now, in reality, 3 to 5% of people accept my quote unquote top dollar offer. But let's pretend you accept it. And then what I have to do is go through due diligence or this in-depth research. I got to confirm you still own the property. I got to confirm back taxes are only $200. I got to make sure there's been no breaks in the chain of title, no liens or encumbrances. There's something compelling about the property, ingress and egress or legal access. And I got this whole checklist. This is all outsourced to my team in the Philippines because they have access to an American title company. And they're getting me plat maps and GIS maps, aerial maps. I'm getting pictures, all this great stuff to create my marketing package. Everything checks out. I buy the property from you for $2,500. I'm going to sell it 30 days or less because I have a built-in best buyer. Do you know who it is?
The neighbors.
Casanova, you're right. The neighbors. Exactly. I'm going to send out those neighbor letters. Very good. Saying, now's your opportunity. Protect your privacy. Protect your views. Know your neighbor. So oftentimes the neighbors will buy it. If they pass, I go to my buyers list. My buyers list passes. I go to the website you may have heard of called Craigslist. It's the 10th most trafficked website in the United States. I go to a smaller one. I know you've heard of this one. It's called Facebook, buy-sell groups, and marketplace. And then I'll go to the lands, landmodo.com, landandfarm.com, landsofamerica.com, landflip.com, landhub.com, all these platforms where people buy and sell raw land. But the way that I'm going to sell it is I'm going to make it irresistible. So I'm going to ask for a $2,500 down payment to control this 20-acre parcel. And then I'm making a car payment. Let's say $449 a month, 9% interest over the next 84 months. So it's a one-time sale. I'm going to get my capital out on the down. I might go 6 months out. And then I'm going to make it a car payment. $449 a month, 9% interest, no renters, no rehabs, no renovations, no rodents. And because I'm not dealing with a tenant, I'm exempt from Dodd-Frank, RESPA, and the SAFE Act, all this onerous real estate legislation. So the game we play is, can we create enough of these land notes where our passive income exceeds our fixed expenses, and now we're working because we want to, not because we have to.
Wow. So my first question at this is, how much of this are you doing in your own backyard, or are you constantly looking, to do this all across the country? Because a lot of people would say, "Oh my God, well, how do I got to call up every county assessor? Like, how do I even find these? Are they all still online? How do I find
Right.
land deals?"
Yeah, I mean, Casanova, let's just get real, okay? Nobody wakes up and thinks to themselves, boy, I'd like some raw land in Nebraska today.
Right.
Unless you live in Nebraska.
Right.
So we're going to focus on Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, California, Texas, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, Florida, the Sunshine States, the fast growing states that have a ton of inexpensive raw land. That's really where we're going to focus. That's where people want to be. Now, it's not that you can't do deals in your own backyard, but we want the biggest buyer pool possible. We don't want Nebraska land where we only have a few Nebraskans that might want it.
Right.
Because even if you're going to buy productive farmland, your main buyer is Warren Buffett.
Right.
He's tough to get a hold of. So, and that's 8%. That's an 8% deal for him. We're looking at 300% to 1,000% margins on our deals.
Wow. So do you still feel like you got in 2001? Now, obviously in 2000, you heard about this 2001. Now you've seen many crashes. The 2008, most importantly, what did that look like in terms of 2008? And I think it's relevant because right now, obviously we've had crazy appreciation. And so the first thing that normally starts to go is new construction. And I wanted to know, how does that tie in with land? Is it like land is untouched and crashes?
Okay, so we're the long tail of real estate. Let's just say, construction, commercial is the head. Then we got residential, then we got industrial, and we're going to walk all the way down that line. We got raw land at last. So for me, 2008, great year, very profitable. 2009, not bad. But 2010, about 50% of my note portfolio just one day vanished. It was the weirdest thing. So I really, really got hit hard in 2010. I talk about this in my book, Dirt Rich, what I did wrong and what I would do differently now. But essentially, we had some runway up to it. Now, even in 2010, my investment company was still profitable, but I built up my personal overhead so high that having a 50% hit on my own personal income was no fun. And so that was quite a lesson to learn about, just money management, ego, and what makes you really happy in life. But the business itself was still profitable because our margins were so high, and we just had to reuse land contracts. So now we had all this new inventory. We just had to figure out to resell. So it took about 2 years to rebalance the portfolio at new pricing.
Got it.
And go from there.
Now, when you say your overhead got so high, you said that you now built this team out in, the Philippines that helps you with all of the automation, the back end work, the research. What was your overhead? Was it only marketing expenses that you built up so high, or what did that look like?
No, I'm talking about my personal overhead. I had to get the big house, the big cars, the private schools, the nanny, the housekeeper, that overhead. I run very, very lean as far as the business. So we're 90% automated. We've got software on the front end. We've got software on the back end that automates the notes. Geekpay.io. The front end is called LG Pass.
Are these proprietary systems, or are these systems that anyone?
Anybody can use them, but I created them because it was just this. I scratched my own itch. I'm like, okay, I've got a problem. Here's how I solve it. So, and then we've got inexpensive virtual assistants in the Philippines and Jamaica that literally run the business. So that's really where we want to get to that point is you don't want to create another job for yourself. You want to create an actual business. And the litmus test is, can you travel around the world and this passive income machine keeps throwing off cash?
Got it. Now, so if someone's looking and they say, okay, you know what? I love Mark. I love his path and how he's done it, and I want to do something similar. How quickly could someone figure out how to start making money from this thing? Like, are we talking within 30 days? Are we talking that it will take you, 3 to 6 months to get up and going? What does that look like?
Yeah, I've got a course. It's $97 how to double your money 30 days or less. I'd love to offer it to your listeners for free.
Yeah.
So they can just try it and they can double their money 30 days or less. They go to landgeek.com/quick deals. And what it does, it simplifies the process as far as what we just talked about before and how to just quickly double your money.
Got it. What's if someone's looking, you said you started out, what was it, $3,000?
Mm-hmm.
How much would someone need to, like right now in this market, if they're looking even in Arizona or wherever, what would you suggest? Hey, make sure that you have at least X amount for you to get started.
You know, we did a podcast on this. We think $1,000
Wow.
is a pretty good starting number.
Got
That
it.
gets you your mailings. You know, again, look.
Does that include your software and your assistants?
No. That's just to get going. No,
Okay.
I mean, there's so much free information out there. You don't need to like invest in a course right away. Like, get your feet wet, start learning, and then if you want to go deeper into it, if the model resonates with you, yeah, certainly invest in yourself and get more education. But in the very, very beginning, you want to start taking action. And you know, if you hit a roadblock, then sure. But $1,000 will get you your mailings going, and have enough capital left over to lock up a property. But essentially, you know, look, if I lock up a property 25, 30 cents on the dollar, I can wholesale that out to somebody,
Right.
and double my money. So you don't need a lot of money in this to start.
Got it. What's the reason that you think most people don't get, I guess, very heavy into land? Because no matter where you go to look, whether it's Bigger Pockets, whether you listen to podcasts, it feels like that there's very few and far between Mark Podolskis. So why do you think that most people aren't talking about wholesaling land or brokering land?
Well, I mean, if you go on HGTV or the DIY network, it's all over. Like, it's what we see every day. It's houses. So if you go to a RIA meeting, there's 100 people in that meeting, 99 of them are going to be house flippers, landlords, and wholesalers. Mm-hmm. So, and why is housing so, you know, attractive? It's a visual medium, and you can wrap your head around it. Everybody needs a place to live. So nobody really wakes up and thinks, I need raw land today. So now if you look around your house, though, 99% of what you have, you don't need anyways. So people really want it. There's a huge market. There's a lust for land in this country, but it is the least sexy niche out there. So if I was on HGTV for Flip This Land, the before picture is raw land. The after picture is raw land. It's not exciting. It's not sexy.
Got it. Now, the other thing that comes to my mind is, obviously we know that, and the one thing that I always tell people is land is the one thing we can never get more of, right? So it feels like that at the end of the day, you're racing until you go out of business. Like with houses, you can always remodel them. Once you have land, unless you're planning on tearing down, but you're talking about raw land. So does it ever feel like I got to get mine now because, 20 to 30 years from now, I'm probably out of the business. I got to go figure something else out?
Well, I've been doing it for 20 years. And there's no private equity groups, there's no hedge funds. There are billions of acres of raw land available. There's a few people doing this. You, me, 1 million people can come in this niche. We're all going to run out of capital before we run out of deal flow. It's just a massive, massive market. And then that market keeps turning over. Just like people keep buying and selling houses, people keep buying and selling their raw land. So it's not a thing where people just, they buy the raw land from me and they hold it forever. It never comes back on the market.
Got it. How much of this raw land are you wholesaling versus you're holding yourself? Like, do you ever hold any of the deals?
Well, I hold all the deals. So 95% of my deals are on notes. So I still own the underlying asset on a land contract. I don't convey ownership until they pay off their note. So there's no cost of foreclosure. So if they're in default, they've got 30 days to cure. If they don't cure, I keep the down payment, keep all the monthly payments, I resell, I get a new down, I get a new monthly, my ROI keeps increasing.
Got it. So this is really like a buy here, pay here, but like a rent-a-center, right? So you that's exactly what kind of comes to my mind.
You got it. It's a rent-a-center for raw land.
Exactly. Got it. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. Now, for somebody that's thinking, okay, I want to get in, but I don't necessarily have the 25 or even 30 cents on the dollar to put down if somebody accepts my top dollar offer. Like you said, how much leverage is into this? Like, are you going to private investors? Are you going to family and you're saying, hey, look at this? Or like, what does that look like on the land side? Because people don't have an asset that they can touch. So it feels like that private investors might say, seems a lot more risky than buying an actual house.
Maybe. I mean, if you, again, if you walk through somebody that knows you, likes you, and trusts you, and you say, hey, if you got some money in the bank, let's say it's $5,000 and it's earning 0%, and I can give you 12% on your money, and it's going to be backed by this raw land, which, by the way, I'll eventually sell for you anyways and get you your capital back and your 12%. You want to do it? The risk is really, really low. They'll do it. So real estate, you always want to use other people's money anyways. So we always want to use 3 points of leverage in business: other people's time, other people's money, and then software to automate. And that's how you scale and get to the next level. So it's really just a matter of feeling competent enough that you can sell this land. Because I've done this so many times, my clients have done this so many times, you're not going to get stuck with a piece of raw land. So if you can confidently help your friends out that are earning 0% of their money, say I'll get you 10%, 12%, 14%, 16%, it's really irrelevant when we're making 300 to 1,000%, help them. And they'll be super happy and they'll just like, I don't want it back. I'll just keep rolling it in. More deals.
Got it. But the real value is in how well you can market this thing, right? Because if you can't market this thing, then this is where you can get in trouble.
If you can't market it, then you come to me and say, I'll wholesale to you, Mark, because you're good at marketing. Or you go to our community and you just wholesale and you double your money.
Got it. How many? So what's this? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, again, we make our money on the buy, just like everything in real estate.
Just like everything. That's what I was gonna say. Just like everything in real estate.
So that's where our money's made.
Got it. So what's the success? Because this is the first that I'll be honest that I'm very intrigued and I'm very curious about it, right? I think that the number one thing that a lot of people have now been starting to look at, especially from a new perspective, is mobile home investing, right? That's been a hot one over the last couple of years, but I could definitely see that land is going to become just as hot over the next couple of years, if not hotter than mobile home investing, just like you said, because of the fact that you don't have any tenants, you don't have any rodents, like it's raw land and everybody wants to build new, right? Whether it's a house, whether it's commercial building, things like that. So my question to you is, what is the percentage of people who are successful at this once they get in versus the percentage or not? Like, is it 50-50 or is it more like 90% aren't successful?
I mean, it's like anything else. First of all, how do you define success? I don't know. It's individual for other people. I would say that for us, we have. Well,
let me ask you. That's a great point. Great question. How do you define success for your students?
I define success for my students where it's basically, did you meet your goal? So it's all individual. It's all personal. So for me, my own personal idea of success is getting out of my comfort zone every single day, doing something that scares me, helping other people, working on my purpose of helping other people get out of solo economic dependency, which means if they're not working, they're not making any money. If I can do that every day, I feel very successful. Will I die and be a good ancestor? That's really my purpose. Everybody else has a different why. And as long as they're doing something that's going towards that why, I consider it a success. So I will say to my clients, whatever you define for your success, write down your why. We're going to reverse engineer that and help you get to that point, essentially. So for some people, they love their job. They want to get to $5,000 a month in passive income. That moves the needle for them. For other people, they want to replace their income. They want to get to $10,000, $12,000 a month in passive income. Roberto Chavez just got to $20,000 a month in passive income. So now he can quit his job as an attorney. At least he has that option. But that took him, 18 months. So it just depends on you personally. But I would say that the only way to fail in anything in life is to quit. So you can't really fail, essentially. And then we also have a skin in the game guarantee. So if anybody invests in any of our services, we say, look, it's not going to cost you anything. You're going to make back that investment 180 days or less, guaranteed. Just show us that you did it. If you do the work and you show us you did the work and it didn't work for you, that's on us.
Got it. Now, when you say do the work and show it, does that mean following your proven method, going that route?
Yeah. I want to see your offers. I want to see how you're pricing. I want to see your county research. I want to see that you're following the recipe. If you're creating your own recipe, well, that's on you. If you're not doing the recipe, that's on you. But if you're going step by step through our training and you're doing it and you're showing us, and it doesn't work, that's on me. Because what happened? Because we want to stay with the current market. And maybe the market changed and we didn't show you what to do now.
Got it. No, that makes sense. So for somebody that's looking and they say, I've never invested in a land, I just want to know up front, like how many hours should I expect to be putting into this as I grow over these next 18 months? Well, how many hours would you say in the beginning? A week?
I mean, I would say an hour or two a day.
Okay. It's not bad at all.
I would say an hour or two a day is what we budget.
But if you do 4 to 5 to 6 hours, obviously, then you're going to get, substantial more results if you're putting in those habits and following the proven system.
No, I disagree. No. Because you're building yourself another job. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, and you want to have a business that you can walk away from and build a machine, you're going to make it very, very hard on yourself because you're working too hard in the business. And if you're in the business 5-6 hours a day, you're not working on the business. You're not thinking like a CEO. You're thinking like a worker bee. And if I can show you somebody that can do that same work for $3 to $8 an hour, well, what's your time worth? Well, CEO's time worth to be $1,000 to $10,000 an hour. That's the work I want you doing. I don't want you scrubbing a list. I can have somebody on Fiverr do that for $5. I don't want you going out there and posting ads on Facebook. I can find someone else to do that in the Philippines for $3 an hour. So I want you spending an hour or two doing the things that really move the needle in your business, creating the systems, creating the processes, working the software, training your team so that you eventually, a year later, you've built the machine and you're out of the business. And now you have a real business. You didn't create another job for yourself.
Man, that's right there worth the whole. And if someone listens to that, no matter what industry you're in, if you can apply that same methodology, that same mindset, you're going to be very, very successful. It reminds me of the book, The E-Myth, by Michael Gerber. Right. And so phenomenal book. But let me ask for you, while we're on the topics of books, like where do you go besides this real estate? Where do you go to sharpen your axe when it comes to your mindset? Like, is there a book that you love or a podcast or anything?
I mean, I'm constantly curious. I love to learn new things. I love meeting new people. So, I have my own podcast where I can have guys like you on and they mentor me during the interview. I'm constantly reading. I'm probably always, reading at least a book a week.
What book in the last year has really impacted your mindset?
For me, it was The Second Mountain by David Brooks.
Okay.
So the first mountain.
That's my cousin.
Is it David? Really? Oh, there you go.
No, I'm just joking. Just last name Brooks, so I said it.
David Brooks. Yeah. So, but that book has been great. Greg McKeown, Essentialism is great book. The One Thing, Gary Keller's, that's a great book to go back to again and again. I love The 12-Week Year, Brian Moran. But, even just to revisit a classic like Rich Dad, Poor Dad for a mindset book is always great. So I'm constantly reading and thinking. So Mondays and Fridays are what I call my terminal days. I pretend if this is my last day on earth, how do I want to spend it? It's usually doing simple things. I want to read, I want to hike, I want to bike, work out, meditate, spend time with my friends, my family. And then another day, if I die, pretty good day.
Yeah.
Right? So, those are the kinds of things that I like to do and think about. But the hard work for me is the thinking and spending that time thinking. Because God forbid, if you're on my team, I've had too much coffee and I Vox you with my Voxer app, my walkie-talkie app, I'm breaking something. I'm like, have you thought about this? Like, are we marketing on Zillow now? Where are we marketing? It's like, oh wait, everything's working. Now Mark's getting involved and he's breaking it. And that's sort of like my role now is, can we do this continuous improvement?
Yeah, and that's so powerful in itself as well. And I'd love to dive a little bit more into that. Have you always had that mindset of delegation and creating systems? Because for a lot of people, that's where I think they struggle at. They have very good ideas, but we talk about it's a big gap and a big transition trying to go from being a solopreneur to then being a true entrepreneur. What was that like for you? Did you always have that of like, I want to work smarter, not harder?
No. So I built myself a better job than my investment banking job. And I remember meeting my mentor, Ori, and this guy sold his company for $360 million. And his mentor is a billionaire. And so we're going for coffee, and I'm kind of bragging to him how great I'm doing, and I'm flipping this land, and I'm like, talking to him. He's like, please, don't insult me. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, don't call yourself an entrepreneur. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, can you die? And the business will keep running? I'm like, no. He's like, then you're no entrepreneur. It's like, you got a good job. Good for you. He's like, but you're still a slave to your business. He's like, talk to me when you're free of it. I'm like, what? So he's like, yeah. He's like, you're doing this. He broke it down for me. He's like, and he kind of e-mythed it for me. And I already read the e-myth. It didn't really click. Until he was like, he had to take my head and like bang it on the coffee table. Be like, Mark, wake up. You can always make more money. You can't get more time. Right. Talk to me when you're completely free. So it took me 5 years to get myself completely out of it and do all that. But I did not do it willingly. I was very scared. I thought no one's going to care as much as me. People are going to take advantage of me. The quality is going to go down. Customers are going to be upset. I had all these fears. None of them were true. And Chris Ducker's got a great book, Virtual Freedom. He kind of talks about superhero syndrome, and I definitely had it.
Yeah.
So, and that's what we help our clients with as well. And we kind of force them to get out of their own way so they can build a business. Because I think without that other person sort of doing that for you, it's very, very difficult.
I would definitely agree. And shout out to Chris Ducker. We had him actually on the show a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, great guy. And it's so powerful that you say that. I just think that most people, they get out of the corporate world, right? Because they don't want a boss, right? And they don't want a job anymore. But just like you said, they start to own their own job. And it's not until you're exposed by someone who actually really understands entrepreneurship that you can you then have to really sit down and say, okay, I think he or she was right. So for you, I want to ask, because you said it took you 5 years. Was it your environment that helped you to get over that hump? Was it you just kept reading these books ferociously? Was it you just kept getting frustrated? What was it for you that helped you get over that hump?
Yeah, for me, I needed that person to keep me accountable.
Got it.
Because I intellectually, I knew what to do. I'd read the books. I understood E-Myth. I understood it intellectually. I emotionally did not want to do it. I needed someone to hold me accountable. Did you hire this person? No. Did you create an ad? No. Did you do this? Did you? No. And then he'd be like, well, you're wasting my time. He would call me an asshole. He's like, don't be an asshole. He's like, come back when you've done it and implemented. He's like, I'm giving you all this great advice. You won't do it.
You won't do it. Wow.
I'm like, all right, fine. So I was I was a tough nut to crack.
Yeah. And I think there's somebody that's listening to this right now that they could say the exact same thing. They're like, man, I am a tough cookie because I know what I need to do, but for whatever reason, I don't. And I think that a lot of that just becomes, we've been conditioned from early on to feel like we have to deliver something tangible. We have to be using our hands or do some type of physical labor to then get rewarded with our time back and also more money. And so that's a tough thing to feel like. I seen a video, and I was just talking to one of my best friends about this yesterday. I seen a video by Jeff Bezos, I'm sorry. And he's on stage on a panel, and he said, he doesn't start anything intensive before 10 a.m. every single day. And he said, the problem with most executives is they think that they need to make every decision in the business. You being any type of a senior executive, he said, you're really only paid to make 2, max 3 decisions every single day. That's it. Everything else doesn't concern you. And that's very, very hard for most people because you feel like I'm bringing so much to the table, my emotion, my strategy, my physicality. That's why I'm so valuable. If I leave all of that on the table and I only bring strategy, why am I more valuable?
Yeah, I mean, I had somebody the other day try to ask me a question and solve their problem for them, and I wouldn't take it. There's a great Harvard Business Review article called "Who's Got the Monkey?" And it's about who's responsible for this problem. And a lot of people, like we were saying, they want to feel important. They want to feel like, oh, I can solve this problem. But that's not your role. Your role is to empower them to solve their own problems. So ask me the question, like, well, what would you do? He's like, well, I would do this and this and this. I'm like, there's your answer. Next time, don't ask me. Now I'm not. So I was like that. I was like, look, next time I want you to think like me. So unless it's within these parameters, don't come to me.
What would Mark do, huh?
What would Mark do?
Right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, look, you're smart. You know what to do.
Right.
You don't have to go through me. Only go, like, you're right. Like, if it comes up to me, it's a really, really important thing that almost no one else could solve. And that's rare. It's really rare.
It is. Man, this has been a phenomenal conversation. It's been a pleasure to have you on here. The last question, well, there's 2 questions left, but the next question I want to ask is, knowing what you know over these last 20 years and all of the evolving that you've done with your character, your business, and everything, if there's one thing that you could go back and change, or you would have implemented sooner to be able to accelerate your path of your dream, what would that one thing be?
I would have started meditation way earlier, way earlier. And because the journey would have been way more joyful for me. And having that awareness of my thoughts and my feelings and kind of watching them come and go, instead of getting wrapped up in it and being identified with it, would have made all the ups and downs so much more joyful than they were in the beginning. So that's what I would definitely have changed.
Got it. Yeah. Therapy and meditation comes up quite a bit on both my shows, and people talk about that. And I think a lot of people, the reason why they don't like to meditate or to have therapy is because I think the instant thought is there's something wrong with me, rather than I need to figure out who I am. And that goes back to your point of awareness, right?
Right. I mean, we always have that constant chatter in our head, and if you're not aware of it, if you just, if we just made the mind like a separate person, you wouldn't put up with this person. They'd never shut up. They flip flop. They're like, they're terrible. So to listen to that and lose time with it is ridiculous once you see it. So, and then, when somebody insults you at a party, you don't think about it anymore. Like, who did they insult? There's, it's just this story I have in my head about somebody I call myself. Right. And so it's really, really interesting how you go through life with a new awareness. Every moment can be precious, but it takes practice. It takes this diligent sort of conscious awareness of getting back to the now. And when you lose track of time in the past or the future, you see it. You're like, oh, and then you get back to what's real.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I hope somebody really listens to this. The first step is awareness. And the second one is intentionality. Be intentional about suppressing it. Be intentional about understanding that this voice is not real. And just like you said, if this was someone else, I would probably slam the door in their face, or I'd leave, or I'd walk away. I'd do something to get my day back, right? If it was somebody else, I would try my hardest to cut that person out of my life. But when it's in our own mind, we still don't have that intentionality about it. We just kind of let it keep going. It's like an abusive relationship. And it's like, it's only so long that you can live with that before you just start to have so much regret. So the sooner that you're aware and you're intentional about suppressing it, the better off you'll be. So thank you for sharing that. And the last question that I have is, there's somebody out there right now that's listening at this, that they're super inspired by you, your journey. I know they're going to go sign up for your course and they want some mentorship from you. But just like we just talked about a little bit, they have that little voice in their head that says that they're not strong enough, they're not smart enough, or maybe they just don't have enough resources. What's that one thing that you would say to that person to get them to just take action?
Yeah, I love this Zig Ziglar quote. If you'll do for the next 3 to 5 years what other people won't do, you'll be able to do for the rest of your life what other people can't do. So if you can hold that image of your best life, whatever that is, well, when you know your why, you can endure anyhow. And that's a Nietzsche quote. So
right.
Now we're quoting Nietzsche, we're quoting Zig Ziglar, which is kind of a weird thing to do in one interview. But it's true, right?
It is true. It's very true. Very, very true. Yeah, live like no one else today, right? So you can live like no one else tomorrow. And so hopefully, again, people take this right here has been so much wisdom that if somebody really is intentional about changing their mindset and then changing their path to whatever their dream is, this is an episode that will definitely do that for them. Plus, there's a strategy. You just got to go figure out how to invest in the raw land, which you already have the courses and the videos and the content on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's, it's the best time ever to be alive. It really is. All the information you ever want is there.
Right.
It's the will to learn it that's scarce now. It's not knowledge is no longer scarce. It's the will that's scarce. And so if you can muster up the will to change your life, it's all there for you.
Got it. That's powerful in itself. The will is now what's scarce. We will make sure that we put all of the links to everything you dropped in the show notes. But for anybody who wants to stay connected with you, where can they find you at?
I think the best place is thelandgeek.com is a great place to start. They can listen to the Art of Passive Income podcasts. There's the Dirt Rich book on Amazon. And yeah, I think those are really the 3 best places to really go deeper in the model.
Cool. Well, this has been a phenomenal conversation. Again, I want to be the first one to kick off the thank you train. And remember, DreamNation, just as he said, in the dream we trust, but you got to have that will and you have to be willing to take action. Otherwise, that dream is only merely a fantasy. That's all for this one. We'll catch you on the next real estate episode. If you've gotten anything out of this episode, do me a favor and head on over to iTunes if you have access and leave me a review. My whole goal is to make sure that I'm serving you all the right way. You're my tribe. You're who I care about. You're why I do this. So if you want to give me any type of thanks, or if you want to let me know whatever your thoughts or your feelings are from this episode or any other episode that you've listened to, leave me a rating or review. And also, if you're looking for more tips, strategies, and even resources when it comes to leveling up your real estate game, head on over to DreamNationAcademy.com. We have a really cool real estate section there, and it's something that I wish that I would have had when I first got started in real estate. So that's DreamNationAcademy.com. Don't wait. I'll see you on the other side.